The grocery store, fluorescent lights, the low hum of refrigerators, the smell of produce and plastic. You are standing in aisle 7. Your cart is half full, your list is half done, and your child is on the floor, not hurt, not sick, screaming, because the tag on the back of their shirt is touching their neck. You kneel down, you whisper, you bargain. You feel the eyes of other shoppers landing on you like weights. Your face gets hot, your jaw tightens. A voice in the back of your mind says the thing you would never say out loud. Why are they like this? Most parents in that moment make the same diagnosis. They call it a tantrum. They call it manipulation. They call it a phase. Or worse, they call it a character flaw. And then they react accordingly. They raise their voice. They threaten consequences. They remove a privilege. They carry a screaming child through the parking lot and tell themselves this is just what parenting is. But here's what no one tells them. That child on the floor is not defiant. That child is drowning, not in water, in data. The tag on that shirt is not a minor annoyance. To that nervous system, it is a siren. And the entire store, with its lights and smells and sounds and strangers, is a full-scale neurological emergency. The parents are not failing, but they are misreading the signal. And that misreading, repeated over years, does not just cause conflict. It quietly, systematically teaches a high-processing mind that its interior experience is wrong. What you are about to learn has been documented in developmental neuroscience for decades, but it rarely makes it out of academic journals. What sits underneath this behavior is not a discipline problem. It is a neurological signature, a pattern of brain architecture that appears in a specific category of children. Children whose cognitive engines are running at a speed the environment around them cannot match. By the end of this video, you will understand a single concept that will permanently change how you interpret your child's most confusing moments. Not just manage them, understand them. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Before we go further, if you have ever watched your child fall apart over something that seemed microscopic, drop a comment below. Tell us what it was, because you are not alone. And the pattern you will see in those comments is exactly the phenomenon we are about to examine. Let us address the most common explanation first, the one that gets passed between parents, teachers, and pediatricians like a currency. They just want attention. This phrase sounds reasonable. It has the logic of behavior modification baked right into it. If the behavior is attention-seeking, you withdraw the attention, and the behavior extinguishes. Except it does not. For this specific category of child, ignoring the meltdown does not reduce it. It escalates it. Withdrawal of co-regulation does not teach self-regulation. It teaches the nervous system that distress is something it must manage completely alone, which for a brain with underdeveloped emotional scaffolding is neurologically impossible. The attention-seeking framework also fails the simplest empirical test. These children frequently melt down in private, in their rooms, in the car, alone after school, with no audience. That is not performance. That is overflow. The behavior is not a strategy. It is a consequence of a brain processing at extraordinary speed, generating extraordinary output, while sitting inside an emotional regulatory system that is not yet caught up. Here's what is actually happening. The term is asynchronous development, and it was formally articulated by researchers at institutions including the University of Denver, through the work of developmental psychologist Linda Silverman, whose longitudinal studies on gifted children identified a consistent and measurable gap between intellectual precocity and emotional maturation. The architecture of the high IQ brain is structurally distinct. Neuroimaging research, including studies published through the National Institutes of Health, has identified elevated connectivity between the parietal and prefrontal cortices in children, who score in the top 2% on cognitive assessments. These are the regions governing pattern recognition, executive planning, and the integration of sensory input. The result is a brain that is phenomenally efficient at detecting irregularities. If you moved a single object on their shelf, they noticed. If your voice carried a 0.3 tone shift when you said fine, they registered it. If the route to school was altered by 2 turns, their system flagged it before you finished explaining. This is not hypervigilance in the clinical sense. It is extreme pattern fidelity, and it is one of the purest early signals of exceptional cognitive processing. But here's the developmental crisis hiding inside that gift. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of impulse control, emotional modulation, and rational override, does not fully mature until the mid-20s in all humans. In a high IQ child, the gap between what the brain can perceive and compute and what the emotional system can regulate is not smaller than average, it is larger. This is what researchers Kazimierz Dabrowski identified as overexcitabilities, 5 distinct domains: psychomotor, sensory, intellectual, imaginational, and emotional, where the gifted nervous system is not just more active, but categorically more intense. Sensory overexcitability explains the shirt tag. The amygdala, the brain's primary threat detection center, is responding to tactile input with an activation level calibrated for danger. Cortisol is released. The sympathetic nervous system engages. The child is not choosing to scream. The child's autonomic nervous system has initiated a survival response to a stimulus the rest of us filter out before it reaches conscious awareness. This is not manipulation. This is biology. Research published in journals affiliated with the American Psychological Association has also documented that these children process the emotional states of others with unusual accuracy. Mirror neuron activity in high IQ children shows amplified responsiveness. They do not just notice that you are stressed, they absorb it, they carry it. They often cannot identify that what they feel is borrowed, not their own. And when they cannot find an outlet for that volume, that relentless, amplified, unfiltered intake of the world, they overflow. If this kind of science-first content matters to you, if you believe parents deserve actual neuroscience instead of behavior tips, hit the like button right now. It is the single best signal you can send to make sure this research reaches more families. Here is what we promised. The single behavioral marker that distinguishes a high IQ child in healthy, if intense, development from a child who has entered a state of chronic underachievement, what researchers call the failure of the gifted. Watch for the moment the curiosity stops. Not the meltdowns, not the intensity, not the sensitivity, the curiosity. A high IQ brain in its natural state asks relentless questions. It does not accept surface answers. When a 6-year-old asks why the sky is blue and you say, because of the atmosphere, and they ask, but why does the atmosphere make it blue and not green? And you answer again, and they ask again. That is not defiance. That is the brain doing exactly what it was built to do, recursively mapping causality. But when that same child stops asking, when the questions slow, when the intellectual hunger flattens, when a child who once dissected every rule for its internal logic begins to simply comply or simply disengage, that is the red flag. That is a brain that has learned the world will not meet it where it is. A brain that has been implicitly told enough times that its pace is inconvenient, its depth is exhausting, its intensity is a problem to be solved rather than a signal to be followed. This is what the research on gifted underachievement consistently documents. The child does not fail because they lack ability. The child disengages because the environment failed to provide sufficient cognitive friction. The neural reward systems tied to discovery and pattern resolution go unstimulated. The brain reduces its output to match what is expected of it. Geniuses do not burn out dramatically. They go quiet. Before the final thought, if you want to keep decoding your child's brain, subscribe now. Every week, this channel goes deeper into the neuroscience of how exceptional minds develop and what they need from the people raising them. You are not raising a problem. You are raising a mind that arrived in the world, running faster than the world is ready for. The child on the floor of the grocery store is not failing. They are communicating in the only language their nervous system currently has. Every meltdown over a shirt tag is a message. Every infinite chain of questions is a message. Every moment of social exhaustion after a birthday party is a message. The message is, I am taking in everything. I need you to help me carry it. Your role is not to slow them down. It is not to toughen them up. It is not to teach them that the world will not accommodate their sensitivity. They will learn that eventually, and they will not need you to accelerate the lesson. Your role is to be the external regulation they cannot yet provide themselves, to be the nervous system that stays calm when theirs cannot, to be the proof that intensity can be held without being punished. In the research literature, this is called the secure base, rooted in the attachment theory frameworks of both John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, and later expanded in studies at the University of Minnesota's Institute of Child Development. The secure base is the relational platform from which high-complexity minds are able to tolerate frustration, sustain curiosity, and develop the emotional architecture their intellect requires. You are not just a parent, you are infrastructure. Now, here's the question for the comments this week. What is the one behavior your child does that used to frustrate you, that now, after watching this video, you see differently? Write it below, because someone else's parent needs to read it. If this video gave you one new lens for understanding your child, the like button and the subscribe are how you tell this channel to keep going. And next, we are going into the concept of twice exceptionality. The children who test as gifted and also carry a diagnosis. The children the system most consistently fails, and the neuroscience behind why these two things are not contradictions. It is the video you did not know you needed. We will see you there.